In this video, we're going to review Food Truck Simulator for PC. Food Truck Simulator was released on Steam September 24th and promised the challenge and experience of running a food truck. You're picking up after your father is gone and you're trying to live up to his legacy of running a food truck. Inside the game, you need to manage your garage, food truck, and supplies in order to succeed. From the description of the game, you'll expect this to be a very interactive and lifelike game experience, and at first glance, that is exactly what it is. But once you get playing, the experience becomes something entirely different. You see, my expectations of a game like this is that it's realistic and fun. These two things can be at odds when it comes to a game because there is a delicate balance between making something real and it still being fun in-game. So in the case of a food truck simulator, I would expect that I can maintain and upgrade my truck, pick recipes and cook them, and have a realistic supply and prep portion of the game. I'd also like to see the ability to pick spots where I could park and serve customers, and these locations would vary depending on the time of day. In terms of Food Truck Simulator, it hits the mark on many of these items. You are able to customize your truck both inside and out, giving you access to different recipes to serve your customers depending on the equipment that you have installed. For example, if you install a fryer in your truck, you can serve fries to your customers, which just makes sense. Driving around and variety in spots where you can park to serve customers is also available. And for the most part, these work out okay. I had some mixed experiences driving, with one example, as we see here, where my food truck decided to become a ragdoll, really removed the immersive nature of the game. The different locations worked well as well, and I was able to serve people food night and day with their preferences on what food items to eat changing depending on their location and time of day, which I thought was a nice touch. But let's talk about the meat and potatoes of this game, the cooking experience. You see, in a game titled Food Truck Simulator, you'd expect the focus to be on cooking, right? Well, this is where things start to fall apart. Instead of a pleasant and more relaxed cooking experience, I'm thinking along the lines of overcooked games where you can just pick up in the middle of a game and figure it out. Food Truck Simulator creates an unnecessary and complicated means of cooking and preparing food. Let's start with the worst offending part of the game, the food preparation. I've never owned a food truck, but I've seen many cooking shows like Food Truck Wars, where we see that most food trucks prepare their food beforehand to improve their ability to serve food quickly to their customers. Cutting tomatoes, preparing sauces, and even partially cooking some of the food that they're going to serve is kind of the bread and butter of operating a food truck. So I was expecting something similar to be found in this game, but it's not. Instead, you're expected to prepare things on the fly while cooking the food you are preparing for your customers. This can become quite a disaster, as there's only one cutting board that you're allowed to use while preparing these foods. You need to cut a bun? You have to use a cutting board. You need to cut tomatoes next? Just put them on the cutting board. It gets to the point where moving things off the cutting board is tedious, as you can only pick up one thing at a time. This means that your tomato that was sliced into 4 pieces needs 4 different click, move, and click actions to get off the cutting board. Not only does this cause a bit of stress as you're trying to prepare food within a certain time limit, but it is frustrating and pointless. What real-life food truck operator is going to move tomato slices off of their cutting board 1 piece at a time? It just doesn't make any sense. Speaking of not making sense, anyone who used a cutting board in real life like this game would be shut down by a health inspector. Cross-contamination is the name of the game. You will cut about everything on the cutting board without ever cleaning it. Not only is it gross, but it just misses the mark in terms of realism. The cutting board is also a disaster when it comes to cutting anything except for buns. The awkward camera angle and sheer randomness of how cuts turn out will leave you scratching your head as to how to get anything cut properly. I would not be happy getting 4 little slices of tomato out of a huge tomato, or 4 pieces of cheese out of a blob of cheese. It just breaks the immersiveness of the game and makes you angry, especially when you can seem to find the right place to cut any of these items. You'll waste a lot of time trying to cut things and scratch your head when they don't work. Let's move on to food preparation. A big part of the game is assembling orders to be given to your patrons. Each of these food items need to be cooked for a certain length of time and assembled in a particular order. But when it comes to assembling these items, if you make a mistake, you can't remove any of the pieces. For example, if you put a burger patty on a bun that is overcooked, you can't remove it, so either you have to throw out and start again, or serve the food the way it is and tick off the customer. In the real world, you would always have the option to change your food items up, so it really breaks the immersiveness of the game. For me, it got to the point where I would make a mistake assembling a burger and just give it to the customer anyway. It didn't seem to matter. Presentation of the food is a little strange as well. One example would be the pizzas that you assemble a little later on in the game. For me, putting the cheese on a pizza results in full coverage up to the crust of the entire pizza. But that is not the way it is in this game. In fact, looking at the pizza in-game, you would be disappointed in getting something like this from any restaurant. Yes, let's have the meat in this corner, a hunk of cheese over here, and oh look, one corner just has sauce. There will be some real improvements in this aspect, and it applies to many food items that you will be creating. If you receive food that looked like this, you'd be sending it back or asking for a refund. So in a nutshell, this game has a way to go to get to the point where you feel like you're actually making food that people will eat in such a way that you're not angry with how tedious the food creation process is. And the current state the game is in, it just isn't fun. I decided to play this game on my Gateway Creator laptop with an i5-10300H, 16GB of RAM from an NVMe SSD on an RTX 2060 mobile with 6GB of VRAM. For the most part, the performance was okay with frame rates around 60 FPS, but with lows as little as 2 FPS. These frame drops occurred at weird points in the game, such as loading screens and menus, so I would think that with some optimizations things could be improved. There are also other assets in-game that could use some work, such as this wall in the office in your garage. Character models of people could also use some work, as many of them look rough as well. In many ways, this game feels like an unoptimized early access game that shouldn't have been called a full release. In conclusion, Food Truck Simulator promises us a game experience that would be similar to a real-life food truck operator and falls short. From the frustrating food preparation issues to poor game performance, Food Truck Simulator really left me with a sour taste in my mouth. When a game doesn't deliver what was promised and is frustrating enough not to be fun, I just don't want to play it. So I'd suggest that you save your money and spend it on a different game. Food Truck Simulator is not a game that you should buy in its current state. We'll maybe take a look at it in a few months after it has some updates to see if the game improves. That about does it for our Food Truck Simulator review. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next video.